Could anyone please confirm?
Yeah, Pawan, it came up.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So let us start with today's session, which is Art of Report Designing in Power BI. Okay, so today's agenda will understand what is Power BI, why are compelling reports important, and what are the key principles of report design. What are some steps that could help us create some compelling Power BI reports? Some tips and best practices that you can do, and at the end I'll take your question and answers. Right. So what is Power BI? Power BI is a very powerful business analytics tool which is developed by Microsoft, right? Which will help us to analyze and visualize the data to help the organizations, right, increase the revenue, right, build the business and sustain in the market, right? And it can connect with multiple data sources. It can be integrated with multiple tools, which will help us in making meaningful insights and as well as interactive reports and dashboards. Right. I hope we are now able to understand what is Power BI. Now I'll talk about why. Okay. Why is this important? Why is it important to understand report design? First of all, we need to learn it because of engagement, right? Clear visuals, grab attention. Am I right? Next thing is decision making. Well structured insights, whatever you prepare, it will drive the business decisions. Third thing is efficiency. It will help the senior management or the decision maker to reduce the time spent, or you could say make them efficient enough to understand very complex data. So thereby we need to make it the make the report efficiently, right? And communication. The visuals itself, it should be able to communicate and help us to understand a story about the data, whatever we are trying to make the insights, right? So these are some core reasons, whatever you're trying to focus for the report, you could say designing. What are some key principles? First is something called clarity. Whatever you make, you must have clarity, right? Even in life, we must have good enough clarity to avoid clutter, right? Our visuals must be very simplified and very clear enough. Okay. Second thing is consistency. Proper uniform layout must be there. Proper color scheme must be there. Font must be there. I'll suggest you some websites and I'll show you some useful resources where you can use it for your better designing. Okay, so please stay till the end of the session. Okay, to understand those, how to utilize those and where to utilize those. So please stay till the end of the session so that you can understand and learn those things. Next thing is what is the relevance, right? So focus on the metrics that matter. Even if the data would give you 100 different insights, we don't want on all the 100 different insights. We want only those or 5 or 10 key insights which is useful for your business. So focus on the metrics that really matter to the client, right? That is called relevance. Fourth is something called interactivity, right? So even if you make the visuals properly and do everything, until unless you help the user to navigate properly, whether you are using drill downs or drill throughs or slicers or filters, if you are not sure, how we are able to make it interactive, so then it will be difficult, right? So interactivity is one of the key principle. Next thing is accessibility, right? So you must ensure the readability and usability for the all the audiences, even if they are color blind or even if they with proper fonts, with proper visibility, colors and everything, right? These are some key principles. I'll talk about each principle in detail so that you can make a good report. Okay, first of all, let us discuss about clarity, how to achieve it. Okay, so you need not make multiple visuals in one report. Few people, what they do is they make lengthy reports, right, where they'll just all clutter or make all the visuals at one page. The user might not be able to understand all the visuals in one page. Okay, and also it will be very chaotic, right? All what you should do is you must have a standard design where you'll be having limiting the visuals, maybe 4 or 5 visuals, which can properly make the user understand what is the importance of it and what is the necessary output which is required, right? And proper limiting number of visuals it is required. Okay, you can make multiple pages if you want. Okay, that is customizable so that the user has the clarity regarding the different data. Next, try to use the white space strategically. Okay, so many times what happens is, due to the large visuals or big fonts or everything, they try to make it congested, right? So try to make visuals, give some breathing space so that it doesn't look very crowded look. Okay, next is something called simplify charts. Okay, try to avoid unnecessary 3D effects, right? And wherever data labels or legends, wherever it is possible to reduce unnecessary titles or anything which is redundant, try to reduce them. Not all, whatever it is unnecessary repeating or whatever it is not necessary, then try to reduce that. And try to stick forward chart types, like try to use the default charts most of all, because clients are familiar with those, or you would say customers or users are familiar with those visuals. Okay, so this is something with respect to clarity. And again, you must focus on one insight per visual. Okay, so of course you are capable, suppose you are capable enough of using very complex visual, and also derive some multiple insights within one visual. Again, user might not be familiar with it, or like it will be very chaotic again. So make sure that at least one good insight is available for one visual, which supports the user with a proper decision. Okay, if at all it is a necessity of the moment, then it is fine. But until unless it is very key thing, you just focus on one key insight per visual. Okay, this is about clarity. I hope you are able to understand, right? So whatever the complement visuals are there, you try to group it together so that they can represent a story, right? For example, you discuss about permutations, combinations. You can make all the red balls together and black balls together, right? Something like that. Similarly, the visuals also, whatever the key insights are together based upon one particular thing, you will group it together. And some with respect to other particular parameter, you'll group it and keep the visuals in a separate page. Or you could say even in the particular page, it in separate section, right? You can use the images, or you can use the shapes and else to support the backgrounds, so that they look, or you could say they appear distinctly, right? So this is all about clarity. We'll move ahead and understand something called consistency. Okay, so consistency, how to achieve that? So usually layout, whatever we prepare, it is it is based upon the alignment, right? Grid based alignment. Suppose let us move ahead in the Power BI and understand. So like whatever prepare, you may prepare vaguely. So what you can do is, you can go to view, you can select on these grid lines, right? So here this grid lines, they're not appearing. But like usually what happens is, in mobile related, this thing, okay, it should appear. No, some issue is there, but again grid lines will appear actually. So you'll be able to use that grid lines in order to properly align it and use it. Okay, uh, that is how you can utilize that proper spacing, and you can align it. You can align the layout appropriately. Next thing is, you can define what is a fixed zone for titles, filters, visuals, and everything, right? For example, I took some basic report. So you are sure that, okay, this is for my page navigation, this is for my KPIs, right? So this is for my some slicing or choosing the options. This is where my visuals change, right? So you can use bookmarks, right? And you can choose the appropriate thing, right? So that the values are changeable, and you can use it dynamically, right? And you must choose, you must be able to keep it very simple for the user, and yet effective, right? Effective. Similarly, we must choose what is the color schema required. Okay, so color schema, I'll talk about multiple palettes, and like I'll show you some useful resources for color schemes. But again, when it comes to corporate, each company will be having their brand colors. Okay, so those brand colors, as well as they'll each company will be having their unique color palettes as well. So you must discuss with your manager what is the respective companies color palettes which they use for PPTs or everything. You must take those, and you must use it within our Power BI reports, right? And try to avoid too many contrasting colors, because it will overwhelm the user, right? Don't use many colors or contrasting colors all at the same time. Next is something called font. So with respect to font, I'll show you some detailing, but you could understand for a normal, fonts, you can use between 10 to 12 kind of size. And for headers, you may be some 14 to 16 kind of size. And if it is very necessary, you can go above that. Otherwise, you must restrict to there, right? So that is about fonts. And I'll show you while discussing about multiple things related to formatting, where you can improve the consistency, right? So let us discuss about relevance. After 2 slides, I'll give you some space to ask your queries regarding these things, and then we'll move on to the other things. Okay. So here there is something called relevance. Okay, what is relevance? Always make sure that you identify the stakeholder requirements and serve their needs. So users may come up with one requirement and you may work on that. Then user requirement changes, and the thing whatever you made might not make sense or might not be relevant to the client. Then you'll be again reworking on those. To avoid such scenarios, try to consider the possibilities and try to make it more effective so that it could be useful for your client, although they might not be good enough to understand those in the beginning. But at least like you could make them explain that this would be a useful criteria, or this thing could make more relevance for that. And you must do some footwork and groundwork regarding that, whatever their requirements are. Okay, so we cannot vaguely do that analysis, or you can do like you cannot create such reports until unless you are communicating from the stakeholders and try to think from the end user part. Okay, suppose if you are a user, what are the things that you might want to see, what are the things that you want to embed, and all those things. Next, when it comes to objective, every visual must serve the report's purpose. Okay, so there shouldn't be unnecessary visuals which does not serve the purpose, right? And try to eliminate all those data points which does not contribute to your actionable insights, right? Because they since they do not contribute to your report or any purpose or anything, so better to avoid them. And try to prioritize metrics. I told you, right? Suppose there are 100 different metrics, you need to prioritize them, and you need not use more than 3 or 4. You need not use more than 3 or 4 KPIs or metrics until unless it is required, right? The reason is too much data also it will confuse the user. Okay, so at least per page maybe try to keep it as better and as minimal as possible, right? As per the requirement, of course, but again, try to do the simplistic and minimalistic things, right? And like you always should use the supporting visuals for the context without overwhelming the audience. Okay, so they should not be frightened about whatever the visuals you are using. And when it comes to custom visuals, mostly try to avoid them, because most of the companies, they do not want to use those custom visuals until unless it is very mandatory to use, right? Default visuals are good enough to serve their purpose. So try to use the native visuals. They are more than sufficient as far as possible for your learning knowledge purpose, and as well as advancing things. You do learn the custom visuals and other things, even other tools to enhance your visuals. But always stick to your native visuals, always stick to your default visuals. And there is something called interactivity. Okay, so to embrace the interactivity, it is not always like sufficient. If you are making only the visuals and leaving it without proper interaction, it might not serve the purpose, right? So you must use the drill downs or drill throughs. If you are not aware, you can go through it and understand these things, how does it work. So it will help you to make your report better, right? In order to, you can use slicer to filter the data whatever it is needed. You can use the horizontal or vertical slicers based upon your space management within the report. There is something called filters, where you can apply that report level filters for serving the common needs, right? So there are different kinds of filters where you can filter the visual, right? Visual, where you can filter a page, where you can filter the whole report, right? These are common filters that appear within the Power BI report, right? So if you just see here in Power BI, this is a filter pane where you can see, suppose you select a visual filter, page filter, and filter on multiple pages. Apart from that, whatever the slicer you use, it also filters the data, right? That is where query context comes into picture, where your query context will help you to understand. Next, we have to use dynamic tooltips, where you can, it will help you to provide additional insights. When you hover on a particular visual, when you hover on a particular visual, you can see the other visual popping up, right? So it is a dynamic tooltip where you can make it with the help of tooltips. You can go through that and make the interactivity better, right? We'll discuss about one more, this thing, which is called as bookmarks, which will help you to navigate between different report views, aiding in the storytelling, right? So bookmarks are something which you should learn. Just for example, this is a, these are two buttons where we made a bookmark. Suppose if I select this project one, the chart would differ. Suppose if I select multiple, the chart would differ, right? So this bookmark will enable the user to minimize the space as well as provide multiple insights and make a better and efficient report, right? Bookmarks are very important to deal with, so please go through that, right? Next, we have something called accessibility. How to, how to achieve it, okay? So as I mentioned earlier, maybe 12 to 16, that size of text, it would be better. And if at all it is a large headings, then you can go above 18 or 20, right? For the headings. Try to avoid overlapping of any text or any labels. Never ever make sure that it is not overlapping. And always ensure that text contrasts well with the background. Suppose if it is a white background, make sure that your text is in black or some dark colors, right? Dark text on the light background. Okay. Next thing is something called accessible colors. Try to use some color blind friendly palettes. We don't know the users, right? The users might be color blind or anything. Try to avoid this red green combinations however it is possible. Mostly we tend to use it unknowingly, but try to avoid those. In this also some different shades will be there. You can try those until unless it is necessary, right? And you can try to provide some alternatives to color coding patterns and labels depending on your requirement or the business requirement. Next thing is we have something called screen reader compatibility, where you can provide some meaningful titles for the visuals to help screen readers describe them. Suppose you mentioned a particular visual where the user is not able to understand about something. What you can do is you can make a particular customer, custom tooltip or a visual which can explain them, right? You can make a text box or image or anything which could help them understand the particular visual. And try to avoid complex visuals which can't be interpreted easily by other technologies or other people or anything, right? So you must make sure that it is compatible enough for the people to understand what is mentioned. Next is, suppose you design for the desktop and client is able to use only in the smartphone or a tablet or anything, okay? You have designed for desktop and client is able to use it only in the tab or mobile phone, then it would be difficult, right? So you must make sure that in certain cases, depending on their requirement, you must be able to make it compatible enough for mobile also, right? Just I have shown you, once you create those reports, you can just go to the mobile layout, right? Here you can click on this auto create mobile layout. Then what happens is it will automatically create my report in mobile. Again, what I can make these changes here and I can make it better actually. Sizes and all those things I can customize and rename and do multiple things, right? So that I can make I can make it mobile friendly, right? You must make sure that you make your particular report mobile friendly, or you could say smartphone or smart tab friendly, right? Next is something called descriptive tooltips. Always try to add some extra text in tooltips so that it will help the users to understand data without any external guidance. Right. So these are some key principles. I hope you are able to understand. These are some key principles which we have discussed till now. I would like to know if anyone has certain queries or doubts in among these things. Right. If you are able to follow these things, you'll be able to make things better to quite some extent. Of course, I'll be giving some technical tips as well as I'll provide some sources in a while. But meanwhile, so whatever we have discussed about these key principles, is it clear, everyone? Do anyone have any query on these? Please feel free to ask. Anyone?
Yeah, hello.
Yes, yes, Rakesh. Please
Yeah,
ask.
so I would like to ask that since the one screen that we can see, we can create multiple screen in there. So what is the best practices that we can utilize the sub screens, means home screen then?
Could you please repeat it?
Okay,
Make
so
the question. Y-
if you go in the Power BI, there are multiple pages that we can create in the Power
Yes,
BI.
yes.
So what is the best practices that number of pages that we can create so
Number
that
of pages. Actually, it should be limited, not too many pages. Depending on the client requirement, we do make it. But it see, there is no exactly one particular number. If it is smaller projects, people will make some 2 or 3 pages, and it would be sufficient for the client. If it is a big project where you need to use multiple references and make it quite complex and do those things, even it might go to 10 pages also, depending on the requirement. One page may be the tooltip, multiple pages could be the bookmarks, and they'll be hiding the pages. Okay, when you publish, if you do not want to show that particular page, what you can do is you can try to right click on that page. I'll go to this desktop view. You can right click on the page, you can hide it. Once you hide it and publish within your Power BI service, you'll not be able to see that particular visual. Okay, I mean see that particular page in your Power BI service.
okay. Yeah,
Right, Rakesh?
yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Great.
yes.
Yeah, thank you. One
And
another question basically. You
yes,
said
please.
that company utilize their own branding.
Yes,
So
yes, brand colors.
yeah, so how we can use that color, specific
Uh,
colors?
like I told you, right? You need to consult with your manager so that they'll provide you. Not to worry.
So yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Means
but
how
suppose
shall we use
okay,
actual?
suppose if it is a reputed company,
Mhm.
uh, like you can just get those palettes in Google also. Okay, suppose if I'm searching like brands and color palettes. Okay, so there are some there are few websites, they'll try to provide you such colors and their palettes. Okay, suppose it is Airtable or something. Okay, let us see some example. Suppose if it is Amazon. Okay, you get these hex codes, right?
Yeah.
These hex codes will be useful for defining the color which is present. Okay, for example, we have this something called Baskin Robbins. So these are the colors which they have used. For example, we have such brands wherever you have it. You'll be having certain hex codes which belongs to that, and you'll be able to get it easily just with a search. Suppose if it is BMW, right? You have these three colors, right? Exactly only this hex code belongs to this color, right? If at all you are working for BMW, you must make sure that you use this hex code and
Okay.
some relevant colors.
Yeah, yeah. So my another question is that there is a custom theme. So in that
I'll
case,
talk
we
about
could,
it. I'll talk
okay,
about it. At
okay,
the end, we'll discuss things in detail. Even after that, if you are left with doubts, we'll discuss. Okay.
okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Sure, Rakesh. Others, do you have any queries? Okay, we'll continue with the further things. Okay, so let us understand some bad practices. Okay, so what are the bad practices that usually people do while building their reports? Okay. Next, like what are the bad practices or some common mistakes which people encounter? First thing is overloading reports with too much information, right? So try to make the things more crisp and clear, keep it more relevant, keep it simplistic and minimalistic, right? Only wherever it is required, only then you try to make the drill throughs and make detailed understanding of those things. Next is using an inappropriate visualizations. Suppose you want to mention a part two whole thing where you want to mention a pie chart. Instead of that, you mention a bar chart, which might not serve the purpose, right? So wherever you want to use the appropriate visuals, you need to use the appropriate visuals depending on the kind of data. Ignoring the user requirements, like user tends to require one thing, and the developer as per his or her comfort, they do tend to create other kind of reports which might disappoint them, right? So don't ignore your client requirements. Next thing is misleading visuals. Suppose you have made a line chart. Okay, suppose let us take this line chart. The values must start from zero, right? Suppose if it starts from 150 or 170, you are trying to mislead the customer, or you could say client, depending on the line that you are trying to project, right? So do not try to create such misleading visuals, and try to uh, create with proper understanding, right? Next thing is lack of clarity and focus. So if you are not aware of and the details about the data, or you don't have the clarity and focus about data, then obviously you'll not be able to make some insights, or whatever the client requires, you'll not be able to do it. So you must try to understand what is the data first. So that is why whatever the whenever the project kickstarts, you must discuss with the client in the kickstart meeting and other things. So, and understand the data in detail. Okay, wherever you are stuck with, it is better to communicate with client. Wherever you are lacking the data, try to fill those loopholes as early as possible. Okay, next thing is something called neglecting performance optimization. So you might create the report, but due to some complex DAX functions, or due to some heavy visuals, or due to some multiple, or too much information embedded, performance would decrease, right? So you must always try to make sure that it is performance optimized. Ignoring interactivity, right? You might create a report, but you don't check it, right? Whether it is interacting with the other visual, whether we should make it interactive or not make it interactive. In Power BI, in the you could say, right, suppose you select particular card visual, okay, or maybe you select a slicer. Suppose I'll select the slicer. Suppose I want to make it interactive. Okay, what I can do is, you can decide whatever the things that you want to make it in interactive, right? Once I select this edit interactions, you can see this do not disturb sign, right? If you click that, it will not disturb that particular visual, and it will not filter that. Again, if you want to make it filter, you can just use that particular symbol to highlight it or filter that. So this is where you can edit the interactions and make it more useful and relevant for the clients, right? So next thing, what we need to understand is overuse of color, right? People use the colors in a wrong way. So make sure that you use it appropriately, right? Not testing the report. So only making the report is not sufficient. You need to validate it. How do you validate it? You can go to Excel, make necessary functions, formulas, try to aggregate it, or what are the same visualization related things. The aggregated values, are the values matching, or the percentages matching? You must test the report for each and every relevant thing which you make in the report. Okay. Otherwise, it is literally useless until unless you make it, right? And there is something called ignoring mobile optimization, where I just mentioned you that you must make it mobile friendly also. And you should not overcomplicate the data model, because again, this would lead to wrong information, or they could say wrong results in the visual output. Okay, and skipping documentation. So whatever you make in a report, at least you must have a reference documentation, so that whenever next time your junior comes in, or whenever this documentation will be useful for the client as well, right? Or for the internal use for the manager, all those things. You must try to document it, whatever the key things are there within the report, that so that they can tomorrow, if you move out of the company, and they want to try to track what you have done, how you have utilized the features and all those things, it should make them clearly understand, right? So if you don't have that documentation regarding that, then you'll not be able to make this particular report. Okay, there is something called overlooking accessibility. Like, you can understand that whatever the features that you are using, you might ignore that and move ahead in multiple ways, right? So do not try to overlook these accessibility features, whatever I have mentioned earlier, right? I hope you could remember. And neglecting the updates and maintenance. So Power BI every month, it gets updated with multiple features or anything, right? Everything. So you must make sure that your report is maintained well enough. other previous changes or any new updates are not impacting your report, you must make sure of that, right? So these are some common mistakes which you can understand, and at the end whatever you are making, it should do some storytelling, right? It must make that, you must be, your visuals must make the user understand particular things. It must tell a proper story, whatever the important insights are to the user by default, right? Otherwise there is no proper utilization of it. Now since we have understood all the common mistakes and bad practices, let us understand some good practices as well. Okay, some technical tips for you in order to make some good reports. So first of all, you need to optimize the data models. How? You can normalize or denormalize. Okay, so normalization, it is nothing but breaking down the large table into multiple chunks to make efficient dimension and fact tables so that you can make your model more efficient. And when it comes to schemas, try to use star schema as far as possible. If not, snowflake schema, but not other things, right? Try to restrict till over there. And sometimes you might have to denormalize depending on the kind of data, right? And try to eliminate unnecessary columns or rows. Try to eliminate, and whenever and wherever possible, mostly try to avoid the bidirectional relationships. Those who are not aware, you can try to go through that. Try to avoid the bidirectional relationship because it will try to evaluate each and every row and causes more performance issue, right? So the first one what you need to do is optimize the data model, because data models are heart and soul of your model, right? Next thing is use some advanced DAX techniques. Okay, for example, try to create those measures where your slicer selections and user inputs can change dynamically. For example, people know this switch measure, but they don't utilize it in a proper way, right? This measure is easy, but where to use, when to use dynamically, people like ignore it, right? So they form your report in a very intelligence it makes it more intelligent. And also, as an add-on, you have something called time intelligence functions, which would even create some good impact for your clients, right? Try to like if at all you have date related column, you have to do some time series analysis or time analysis. Do not forget to use DAX functions related to time intelligence, right? And there are some functions which might take a burden on that particular performance. For example, there is a function called search, right? What it does, it evaluates each and every row to search and do the things. Rather than that, what you can do, you can bring that particular column, whatever it is required from the data source itself, from the database itself. It is okay to bring that rather than using DAX function for that. You make the changes within the source. Similarly, there are some functions like if error or other things where it will make your Power BI report lacking, right? So you must understand what are the best practices for that. Some best practices I'll show you. Okay, so suppose you type this DAX reference. Okay, you'll get this DAX reference documentation. Okay, so if you see here, okay, you click on this learn, you have this best practices here. Okay, so they have given some best practices, you can see here, right? Regarding divide or some best practices they have given. You can go through this. Okay, I'll put this particular reference. You can just go through that. These are only few. Apart from this, there are many. You can go through them gradually, but you must understand how to optimize DAX. Okay, this is one thing technically as a suggestion where you can implement it. Okay, next thing is something called implement parameter tables, right? So what are parameters? Most people in Power BI, they might know the parameters. Okay, so they might know this in modeling tab, they might know these parameters, how to use. How do we use? If it is a field value, or suppose if it is a numeric range, we can dynamically vary the numeric range. If it is a field value, then we can use it in two ways, either for measures or else for fields, right? So these three things where you can create the parameter tables, people tend to ignore, right? Which can help the people, or you could say clients, in a better way, right? Do not forget to use parameters wherever it is necessary. Okay, so it will help you to dynamically create the tables. That is where clients will be happy to see your reports in a better way. Next thing is try to use bookmarks for the navigation. I have shown you, right, using the bookmarks. Apart from that, you can use that multiple like DAX related functions and also create that. Again, uh, like you must make sure that you are making things easier for the clients. Even if you are making bookmarks, you must give proper guidance. Okay, so what is the effect of some using something, and what is the disadvantage, all those things you must mention properly in the report itself. You could embed it by using those bookmarks. Next is something called optimizing visual performance. So suppose the user wants to see a tabular visual, okay, where they want to just refer that, okay, within Power BI. So you should not blindly bring all the million rows into your Power BI and drop it over in the table visual or matrix visuals. If at all user wants to see only particular columns and particular aggregated data, then better to aggregate, right? And if user is wanting some proper reports, then they can go for something called paginated reports, right? So for this paginated reports, we use a proper tool called Power BI report builder tool, right? So s- do not bring all the rows within the Power BI, which will even increase the size of the report, and also it will create the performance issues. And whenever required, try to use the conditional formatting, which can help particular people to understand the scenarios well. For example, here we have a particular scenario where some particular value, if it is greater than this particular value, it is highlighted, and if it is less than that particular value, it is highlighted in a different colors, right? This conditional formatting will help the particular user to make the visuals and reports very easy to understand, easy to interpret. Next, we have something called row level security, where the particular user, they'll be having like credentials, or you could say particular user name, user ID, email ID, which they log in with into their Power BI service. Using that particular email ID, you can just make that particular data filter dynamically according to the user, right, by using this user principal name function, and again within the row level security, right? So where do we use the row level security? It will be present in your modeling. You can click on this manage roles, and you can create your particular team wise. You can create your a report accordingly and then show it, right? Next thing is something called themes and templates, which Rakesh has asked about it. So try to apply some custom themes for consistent branding, and try to create reusable templates for your company-wide standardization, right? I'll show you some examples. If you go to view in the particular theme section, you have some by default themes, right? Some accessible themes and some Power BI themes. By default, you can enhance your report with these things. But if you want to browse more themes, you have something called, if at all you have JSON file, you can input that JSON file, right? And if you don't have, you can go to theme gallery. Okay. So I'll paste this link where you have this theme gallery. Okay, what does this theme gallery provide? Many people will be having will like many people might have created particular different reports where they can like if at all you tend to like this particular report more, and colors whatever they have used better, right? So you can go to that particular report. In the bottom you can find this something called JSON file, right? So this JSON file you can download it, and you can go to the Power BI, right? And you can just browse for the themes, and then you can upload it and change your report theme, right? So in this way, whatever the existing themes are there, you can just try to use them. Okay, and if you want, you can customize your theme as well. In the view, themes as well, there is something called customize current theme. You can change the multiple colors, right? You can change the advanced colors, whatever the different elements are there. If you click on this learn more, right, you have this particular report documentation where things are discussed in detail. Okay, so for example, if you see here, right, things are discussed in detail. You can see the more information in the bottom. So these are all first level elements, whatever we talked about in that customizing current theme. You can understand each and every element in detail. What are the first level and second level and all those things. Each and everything, it is present in the document. How to customize that particular JSON code or how to deal with it, right? And if you want, if you are very good equipped with the JSON format, even you can make your theme much more effective and easier to edit, right? Like that, you can try to customize your themes. And suppose you want to make create the theme within the browser, you can type something called Power BI theme generator. Okay, so if you type Power BI theme generator, so you'll be able to see some websites which are commonly used. Okay, there is something called this Power BI theme generator, and you can see some few more theme generators here, right? So this one, you can see, you can change the colors respectively, right? Apply them, right? You can apply them, and those colors will be changed. And then once you change the things, you can download the base template, or you can create the JSON theme, and right, you can do those things, right? You can set colors, right? Create JSON theme and download that PBAT and apply, right? This is the simple procedure. You can just try to play with it, right? This is something called theme generator, right? I'll just paste the link. And here we have something called themes.powerbi.tips, where you can try to design much more in detailed way, where you have multiple palettes, colors, and things in details, where if you are able to design it well, you can design it. You can design the wireframes and multiple things, easy to do and flexible to do. All you need is some patience and understanding to create it and save it as a visual, right? So this is where you can try to create the wireframes. I'll just share with you. Okay, so there are few more things which you can understand regarding this particular themes and colors. I'll show you some color palettes and all those things in the next few slides. But again, like this is how you can try to deal with the JSON themes, as well as you can use theme gallery. You can try to use that theme generators to create your themes, customize your themes, and create customized templates as well, right? And when it comes to reports, try to use the drill through and tool tips, which will make your client easy to understand the data, right? Earlier also I have shown this tip, but again, try to implement this drill through tips and tool tips without without fail, so that you can make an effective report. Next, as I mentioned, if the client requires some hard coded or I could say, if the client requires hard paper or distributed data within, like which represents a particular statements kind of thing or invoices kind of thing for regulatory reporting, they can use a tool called Power BI Report Builder. Okay, so you can install the Power BI Report Builder tool, then you'll be able to easily use it. Okay, and there are only few more things which you can like patiently understand. Just I'll take some few more minutes. Okay, I understand that you might be tired of understanding these things, but I hope it will be helpful. Okay, so wherever required, like you try to use the AA visuals. Okay, what are those AA visuals? Key influencers, decomposition tree, right? Q&A visual, Q&A visual, as well as smart narrative, right? Smart narrative. So all these AA visuals, you try to use it so that it could uncover the patterns and insights automatically, right? So these AA visuals will help you to derive much more better insights gradually. And whenever it comes to data flows, try to create some reusable data flows for the centralized data transformations. So like suppose if you don't understand what is data flows, I'll just share this particular link. You can take a few minutes to go through that. What is what are data flows, introduction to that, and what is self-service data prep and other things, right? So like you can understand data flows is connected with data sources, and then we'll be able to create multiple reports and dashboards using the semantic models with the help of data flows. right? Which is supported by ADLS, right? Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. Right? There are many advantages and disadvantages. Here you can see some scenarios where it will help, right? So creating some reusable transformation logic, it can be shared by many semantic models within Power BI, right? So data flows will promote reusability of underlying data elements. Whereas if at all you don't do it, then there might be many chances of breakage of or data or connections or multiple things could occur. But if at all you want to create a single source of truth where it is curated from raw data, then this particular data flows will help you, right? And let us move ahead and understand few more things about performance related thing using DAX Studio. So DAX Studio is an external tool which you can use to improve the performance. You can just type DAX Studio. You'll be able to see this website called daxstudio.org. You can just download this setup and install it, right? It will be integrated with your external tools here in the Power BI report, right? Once you install the DAX Studio, you'll be able to run multiple queries depending on the your model and multiple things. And then there will be multiple things where you can understand server timings. Okay, how much the particular, like how much time that particular query would require to run by the formula engine and storage engine and all those things you could evaluate and use the DAX Studio to improve the performance, right? So this is an external tool which is which could be embedded with Power BI by just installing from that particular website called DAX Studio, right? Similarly, there are other tools called Tabular Editor, ALM Toolkit, right? And such tools where it can help you boost the performance as well as improve the report gradually, right? And here we have something called incremental refresh. Suppose you have 10 years of data or maybe 20 years of data. Okay, so this is from 2004 to 2024. So maybe after 2020, okay, so you consider this last 5 years data as a recent data. Okay, so if at all any new data is incoming, you might consider the changes within the past 5 years only, right? So other data which is archived, you might not always refresh whenever this new data comes in, right? So this archive data, you can skip it and you can just try to incrementally refresh from a particular point of time. Okay, so that is a feature where you have to use it in Power BI so that it reduces the load of unnecessarily refreshing the previous data which is not required. So thereby it reduces the query load, right? You can just go through the documentation, you'll be able to understand it. But again, whenever you are working on the projects, these things would make your report efficient. And at the end, you can understand you need to enhance user experience. So try to use the buttons, pop-ups, smart narratives, all those things. So when it comes to smart narratives, I'll just tell you, suppose you can go to insert, you have this narrative, suppose you have this custom, right? So it has created some narrative for me. Okay, so I have got some insights. What I can do is I can just use these insights. Of course, it will be dynamic in nature. You can little format it and use it. But what I'll do is to make it even more better for you to understand. Like if you are not able to quite interpret it, you can use ChatGPT, right? What you can do is you can provide this particular data to the ChatGPT and ask the ChatGPT, right? You can ask the ChatGPT, right? Please provide this data by converting into some impactful statements, right? To represent in the report, right? So it is something where I'm asking, if I just execute, you see that 4 lines, it has made different insights. Okay, what is total approved budget highlights? What is cumulative budget highlights? All those things it has mentioned with proper headings, right? So this particular thing, it will be helpful for you to keep as some good insights within your report, right? Like this, you can make your report even better, right? Next, we have something called using external tools. External tools, I have told you the tabular editor, ALM toolkit, right? And there is something called Power BI Performance Analyzer, where you can identify the bottlenecks in visual loading, right? And the performance analyzer, you can like this analyzer, you can use it in optimize section. You can see this performance analyzer. You can start recording, right? And whenever you refresh the visuals, all the particular visuals, it will show you the time, how much it has consumed and everything. If you want to detailly analyze, you can copy the query, analyze in DAX Studio. You can run in DAX query view to understand the data. You can play with this and do multiple things. Again, you can stop it, right? If you want to load this particular data into your DAX Studio, you can export this data. It will be downloading a file where you can go to external tools, DAX Studio, right? So if you see, if you go to that advanced, or I could say, okay, if you go to advanced, there is a feature. Okay, let me check. Okay, it is in home tab itself. You can see something called load performance data, right? So that JSON file, if you have that load performance data, whatever you have exported from here, you can load it within your DAX Studio and evaluate it, right? So in that way, you can try to even optimize it using performance analyzer, right? So these are things, few things where it will be very useful for you to optimize things in Power BI. Okay. And now let us understand some useful websites where I'll show you some, good websites for you to fetch in some colors, reports, and multiple things. So there are some slides. First thing is documentation. Okay. I'll just remove things for avoiding the clutter. Okay, so this documentation, you can understand, Power BI documentation. There are multiple things which can help you in multiple scenarios, right? Starting from the beginning, how to connect, how to collaborate, how to administer for business users, model the data, co-pilot, right? Multiple things are there. You need some patience to study, understand, and things in detail. Power BI documentation is a very good resource that you must go through, right? Next thing is something related to this particular, uh, like training related thing. But again, basic, whenever you are going for certifications like PL 300 or anything, at least as a for good understanding, you go through all these modules, right, in the learning path, so that you can get an overview of what you are going to study and execute, right? So this will be a good resource where you must go through the go through the reading of it at least once or twice at least, right? So that you can get good understanding. The further modules, it will be right, and you could say it will uncover gradually. Okay. Next, you have something called a dribble platform, or there are multiple platforms. Suppose you look for reports. Okay, so you'll get some multiple reports and their designs and UI UX related information, right? For example, if you take this report, you can understand how it is represented, what is the what is the background, how they are able to use that particular menu thing, right? How they are able to create that particular format, what are the visuals they have used, how did they create such these things. You can gradually understand, make the reports more efficient, and the representation, all those things you can like learn, right? Even if you just do some basic Google search also, you'll get it. But I'm just showing you where we have some good good and nice reports to show, like see, right? Suppose if I take this report, okay, so it is a multiple things report. If I just select this, okay, so just like in a mobile application, however you have like this, you can create a panel in Power BI as well, right? And we can call it as a slicer panel. You can try to understand how to create that slicer panel and just create such multiple tabs where you can navigate through it easily, and also being highlighted and make it creating it. All you need to understand is you must have good knowledge of bookmarks, right? So whatever the real-time applications that you are seeing, most of our people take inspiration from those things. For example, this is also a kind of report where you can see for navigation they have used this kind of design. This design is not very, it is of background, but again, these icons, they play a major role for changing the different data, right? And this is a kind of gate chart, right? Some basic KPIs, right? Again, KPIs with some icons, right? Icons play some good and important role to make you understand things, right? Again, normal visuals also, you can see how they are able to highlight it and make it efficient enough, right? Like that, you must be able to see multiple reports, get inspired from them, try to explore and try to create some effective reports. Okay, so there is one more thing, like there are few more things, of course, and like some basic websites like coolers.co. Okay, so what you can do is you can just generate particular colors whatever you want, right? And of course, if I just try to click on this, you can create a palette, right? You can click on let's go, you can click like close that. So here you have some different color palettes, right? You can use these particular features and then you can try to generate, right? And you can try to use multiple things. Again, by default, if you don't want those, there are some by default color palettes which you can go through. Okay, so if I just select these particular colors, you can see something called palettes, trending palettes. So these are multiple color palettes. If you just hover on them, you'll be able to see the hex code. If you click on that, it will copy to your clipboard and then you can use it very quickly, right? Gradient colors, multiple effective color palettes you can see, right? Like this, you'll be able to use some color palettes. You can use this website, coolers.co. Similarly, you have multiple websites, right? There is something called color palette generator, right? Which is related to this color adobe.com, right? Where you can use it for free, but again efficient enough and use it in a like better way, right? You can create the color themes. If you just click on visit, you see you can have this particular RGB color mode or HSB, all these things. When you are, if you want to deal with different kind of colors, you can play with this Adobe, color.adobe.com, and you can just make some good themes. Okay, color themes. Next, we have something called color brewer, right? So here you can see, if you come across this maps related thing and all those things, you will have a particular multi-hue related things and all those things, right? So here also you can see the diverging colors or some qualitative colors, right? You can just try to go for color blind safe colors, right? And multiple things you can just try to understand. You can see what is the different hex codes and all those things, right? So this is where you can try to use this colorbrewer2.org, where it can help you some derive some good colors, or you could say combinations which are color blind friendly or print friendly and photocopy safe, right? Next things are, there is something called palettes flat UI colors, right? So you can see this flat UI colors, like there are different palettes where you can understand. Suppose if it is an Indian palette, so you have multiple colors where you can use it, right? If you don't this color, you can just copy it. It will be copied and you can use this particular hex code, right? So easy to use and easy to use this website. So I'll show you some more informational websites. Just have some patience for few more minutes, and then we can like go through the questions that you have. So there are some useful websites. For example, you have this colorinspo.com, right? So you can see there are multiple color tools here. You can see color tools. Of course, few things are to try it out. But again, you have some certain gradients which it can be useful for you to make it more efficient enough. So there are some few things how to use it on solid colors, right? So many things like this, it will help you make your report create very efficient and better way. Very soothing colors. If you get, you'll be able to create a good and effective report. Okay, so there is something called colormind.io, right? Which is an AI related tool. But again, okay, there is something called colors.ai also, right? Okay, so here you can see you can have that particular thing, and whatever that particular generator, it will learn from the photographs and all those things you have, and it will create a particular color themes, right? So here you can click on generate, right? It will try to create that, and you can upload an image, right? You can upload an image and it will try to pick up those colors which are relevant to that particular image, right? You can give that image and it will try to pick up and give some relevant colors here, right? Colormine.io, it will help you to do such useful thing, right? In few situations you can use some color picker tool also on the Google, and you can use it. Even you can use the PowerPoint also, right? Even in PowerPoint you can just whenever you bring that image, like suppose let me show you some image, right? For example, I have this image, right? I can go to this particular, I can right click, right? I can click on format picture, right? You can there will be some eyedropper tool. Okay, so I think in the picture format only you have some, let me show you color, more variations, picture color options, right? Okay, so there will be some eyedropper tool where you can just drop that particular eyedropper here and it will pick the color whatever it is present, right? So that will help you to pick that color and make it better. Okay, picture effects. Okay, here we have this eyedropper. Suppose you can see this color, right? And suppose if you take this color, you just click on that, and like of course like you can pick that color, use it use it to in particular multiple websites where you can bring that particular hex codes and do that particular formatting, right? Okay, so you can use that PowerPoint as well, and there are multiple websites where you can just try to explore those color palettes. Okay, and few other things where, okay, you can see some icons and all those things. Okay, for example, you have multiple very cool gradients like this. Some there is, I have came across this particular gradients guru or something. There are very nice gradients where it will make your report appear very cool and good. These gradients maybe it might be little difficult to create, but you can see the hex codes here, right? You can use the hex codes and make it very easy, right? Like this you can use such effective reports. I could say effect, you can create such effective colors using which can be usable for reports, right? And there are multiple things where you can take the icons, right? There is a famous website which is flaticon.com where you can search for multiple icons. For example, you can take icons related to customers, right? If you just search for customers, you can just pick this icon, right? Copy to clipboard. You can just save it as a PNG, right? If you just click on this PNG, it will be copied and you can use it wherever you want, right? You can see this is my customer, this thing where I'm able to bring this here, right? So like this, you'll be able to use that flaticon.com, bring multiple icons into your Power BI report as well, right? And you can download it as well. Here you can download it and use it. There are literally thousand lakhs of icons which can help you to make some good reports, right? And let us see few more things. Okay, some websites I'll just try to show you quickly. Okay, so I'll just open that first. I'll show you quickly. Okay, so you'll be able to get some good idea how to use the resources well to make it efficient enough for you, right? Okay, so these are like this I have shown you flaticon.com. There is something called iconmonster.com or something, right? Where you can have some different icons but in a better way, right? Very like, of course, very useful icons, and with some good clarity and all those things. And similarly, we have, if you want animations and all those things, there are some, free Lottie animations and 3D illustrations, all those things. And suppose even if you want only vector icons, you can go for this vector icons. Okay, in Lottie animations, again, like you have a lot more, you have to sign in and you can use it, but you can understand good animations are present, which can be very helpful for you. But not like this, but again, very useful, animations, you can go through that. And there is something called svgrepo.com, okay, where you can see 500 plus open licensed svg vector icons is there. Okay, so these are all vector icons. You can see many icons. You have monocolor icons. If you want multicolor icons, you have, right, duotone icons, outlined icons. So all these icons, you need not go for, multiple websites like this kind of websites, svgrepo.com or flat icon. All these websites will help you to bring the icons very easily. Okay, and similarly, we have some, multiple websites like this thing, Streamline HQ, or multiple icon. Of course, you can use any one particular source, but I'm showing you some, possible good sources so that you can pick it up, right? There is something called feather icons. You can see how these icons are, right? They look very neat and simple and clean to use. Very, very customizable to use also. You can see you can customize the size, what is the stroke width you want. If you want, you can change the color also, right? So this is the advantage of it. You can just understand how to use it, right, depending on the usage, right? You can see as soon as I clicked on it, it has downloaded. I can just open the file and use it. Okay. And similarly, there is something called iconarchive.com. Okay. So where you have some very like illustration kind of, icons. Okay. So these are some, no, good icons where you have shown you like to use it for your reports. And like, yes, we are at the end of the session, and this is all for today. I welcome any of your questions so far, whatever has been discussed, and whatever, I hope it was useful. Could you please feel free to raise your questions and